Have you ever wondered why some people seem to bounce back from rejection stronger than before, while others crumble at the first sign of dismissal? Well, today, we're exploring the ancient art of reverse psychology through the lens of Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy. Imagine transforming every rejection into rocket fuel for your success, every closed door into a master key that opens 10 more opportunities. Rejection doesn't have to be your enemy. It can become your greatest teacher, your most powerful ally in building unshakable confidence and inner strength. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature that most people miss completely. They knew that our response to rejection reveals more about our character than the rejection itself reveals about our worth. So if you've been turned down, overlooked, or dismissed lately, this video will completely change how you see those experiences. We're about to dive into 13 game-changing lessons that will turn you into someone who actually welcomes rejection because you know exactly how to use it to your advantage. Before we begin this transformative journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because the wisdom we're sharing today could be the missing piece in your personal development puzzle. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. The first lesson is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. When someone rejects you, give them exactly what they think. They want complete indifference. This isn't about being cruel or petty. It's about understanding a fundamental truth about human psychology. People are naturally drawn to what they can't have and repelled by what chases them too eagerly. When you respond to rejection with calm detachment, you're doing something most people never do. You're maintaining your dignity while simultaneously making yourself more attractive. Think about it this way: when someone rejects you, they expect you to react emotionally, to chase, to beg, to show that their opinion matters more than your own self-respect. But when you don't give them that satisfaction, when you simply accept their decision and move on with grace, you've just demonstrated something rare. In today's world, genuine confidence. This response sends a powerful message that you're not dependent on their approval for your happiness or self-worth. And ironically, this often makes people reconsider their initial judgment because they realize they may have underestimated someone who doesn't crumble under pressure. The second principle involves mastering the art of emotional regulation, which the Stoics called emotional intelligence, long before modern psychology coined the term. When rejection hits, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, or disappointed. But here's where most people go wrong. They let these emotions drive their actions instead of acknowledging the feelings and then choosing their response consciously. Marcus Aurelius taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we have complete control over how we respond to what happens. This means that when someone says no to your proposal, dismisses your ideas, or ignores your presence, you have a choice. You can either react from a place of wounded ego or respond from a place of centered strength. The Stoic approach is to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what would the best version of myself do in this situation? Not what would make me feel better in the moment, but what would align with my values and long-term goals. This emotional mastery doesn't happen overnight, but every time you practice it, you're building mental muscle that will serve you for life. Moving to the third lesson, we discover the power of strategic withdrawal, which is completely different from giving up or admitting defeat when faced with rejection. Sometimes the most powerful move is to step back and redirect your energy elsewhere. This isn't about running away from challenges. It's about recognizing when your efforts are being wasted on people who aren't ready to appreciate what you bring to the table. Think of it like a skilled chess player who retreats a piece not because they're losing, but because they're setting up a more powerful position for the next move. When you withdraw strategically, you're conserving your energy for opportunities where it will be more valued and effective. This approach also creates something psychologists call the scarcity principle. When you're not constantly available, when you don't chase after every opportunity, people begin to wonder what they might be missing. The key is to make this withdrawal genuine, not manipulative. You're not playing games, you're genuinely investing your time and attention where it's most likely to yield positive results. The fourth lesson teaches us about the incredible power of living well as the ultimate response to rejection. Instead of trying to prove your worth through words or arguments, you demonstrate it through the quality of your life, your achievements, your character, and your inner peace. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about virtue being its own reward. When someone rejects you, the natural impulse is to defend yourself, to explain why they're wrong, to try to change their mind. But there's a much more powerful approach: channel that defensive energy into constructive action. If someone says you're not qualified for a position, use that as motivation to acquire the qualifications they're looking for. If someone dismisses your creative work, use it as fuel to improve your craft until it's undeniable. When you focus on becoming better rather than proving you're already good enough, something magical happens. You actually do become better, and success speaks louder than any argument ever could. The fifth principle involves understanding the psychology of reverse attraction, which is based on a simple truth. People want what they think they can't have and often take for granted what's readily available. When you respond to rejection by becoming less available, less eager to please, and more focused on your own goals, you trigger a psychological response in others. They begin to wonder if they made a mistake. They start to notice qualities in you they previously overlooked, because now you're not desperately seeking their approval. This doesn't mean playing hard to get or being manipulative. It means genuinely becoming someone who has options, someone who doesn't need any particular person's approval to feel complete. The difference is subtle but crucial. When you're playing hard to get, you're still focused on the other person's response. When you're genuinely self-sufficient, you're focused on your own growth, and the other person's response becomes irrelevant. The sixth lesson explores the concept of productive detachment, which the Stoics practiced as a form of mental discipline. When someone rejects you, instead of taking it personally, try to understand it objectively. Maybe they're dealing with their own insecurities. Maybe they're not in a position to appreciate what you're offering. Maybe the timing is wrong, or maybe you're simply not compatible, and that's okay. Productive detachment means you can analyze the situation without emotional investment. You can learn from it without being wounded by it. You can even feel compassion for the person who rejected you, because you understand that their actions often say more about their internal state than about your actual worth. This perspective is incredibly freeing because it removes the sting from rejection and allows you to see it as valuable feedback rather than personal attack. The seventh principle teaches us about the power of multiplication. When one door closes, instead of standing there pushing against it, use your energy to open multiple other doors. This is where most people go wrong. They become fixated on the one opportunity that didn't work out instead of recognizing that it's freed them up to pursue several others that might be even better. Rejection often comes with a hidden gift. It forces you to expand your options, to think creatively about alternatives, to become more resourceful than you were before. A single rejection can lead to discoveries about yourself, your capabilities, and your desires that you never would have made if that first opportunity had worked out. The key is to move quickly from disappointment to exploration, to see rejection not as an ending but as a beginning of something potentially much better. The eighth lesson involves mastering the art of graceful persistence, which is different from desperate clinging. Graceful persistence means you don't give up on your goals just because one person or one opportunity didn't work out. But you also don't waste energy trying to force situations that clearly aren't meant to be. Instead, you pivot, you adapt, you find new angles and new approaches. You maintain your direction while being flexible about your path. This kind of persistence is attractive because it shows strength without desperation, determination without neediness. When people see that you can handle rejection without falling apart, they respect you more. They're more likely to recommend you to others, and they often come back to you later when circumstances change because they remember how professionally you handled their initial no. The ninth principle teaches us about the power of reverse validation. Instead of seeking approval from those who reject you, focus on building relationships with people who already appreciate your value. This isn't about surrounding yourself with yes men or avoiding all criticism. It's about investing your emotional energy where it's most likely to yield positive returns. When you stop chasing validation from reluctant sources and start nurturing connections with people who genuinely value you, something wonderful happens. Your confidence grows naturally because it's based on real positive feedback rather than the absence of negative feedback. You also become more attractive to new people because confidence is magnetic and people are drawn to those who seem secure in their own worth. The 10th lesson explores the concept of strategic indifference, which is a powerful tool when used correctly. This doesn't mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means not allowing other people's opinions to dictate your emotional state or your actions. When someone rejects you, instead of trying to convince them to change their mind, you simply accept their decision and move forward with your life. This sends a powerful message that while you value their opinion, you don't need it to validate your worth. Strategic indifference also protects you from manipulation, because when people realize their approval or disapproval doesn't dramatically affect you, they lose the power to control you through emotional games. The 11th principle involves understanding the timing aspect of rejection. Sometimes a no today becomes a yes tomorrow, but only if you handle the initial rejection with grace and maturity. Many opportunities are lost, not because of the original rejection, but because of how poorly people respond to it. When you react to rejection with anger, resentment, or desperation, you eliminate any possibility of future opportunities with that person. But when you accept rejection, gracefully thank them for their honesty and continue to conduct yourself professionally, you leave the door open for future possibilities. Circumstances change, people change, and the person who isn't ready for what you're offering today might be very ready for it 6 months from now. The 12th lesson teaches us about the power of selective investment, which means being strategic about where you put your time, energy, and emotional resources. Instead of trying to win over everyone who rejects, you focus on finding and nurturing relationships with people who are naturally aligned with your values, goals, and personality. This doesn't mean giving up at the first sign of resistance. It means learning to distinguish between situations where persistence might pay off and situations where you're just beating your head against a wall. The ability to make this distinction comes with experience and emotional intelligence, but it's one of the most valuable skills you can develop because it prevents you from wasting years of your life chasing people and opportunities that were never meant for you. The 13th and final lesson is perhaps the most important of all. It's about transforming your relationship with rejection itself. Instead of seeing it as something to be avoided at all costs, start seeing it as valuable feedback that helps you grow and improve. Every rejection teaches you something about yourself, your approach, your goals, or your environment. When you start collecting rejections like data points rather than taking them as personal attacks, you become incredibly resilient because you're no longer afraid of the word no. In fact, you start to welcome it because you know that each no is bringing you closer. To the right, yes, you also become more willing to take risks and pursue ambitious goals because the fear of rejection no longer paralyzes you. Now let's dive deeper into the practical applications of these 13 principles, because understanding them intellectually is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you begin implementing them in your daily life consistently and with intention. First, understand that rejection is often a test of your character and resolve. Many people give up after the first no. But those who understand reverse psychology know that this is exactly when the real work begins. Think of rejection as a filter that separates those who are serious about their goals from those who are just casually interested. When someone rejects you, they're essentially asking, do you really want this enough to keep going? Are you committed enough to find another way? Are you resilient enough to bounce back stronger than before? Your response to these questions determines whether rejection becomes your stepping stone or your stumbling block. The power of delayed gratification plays a crucial role in how you handle rejection when you don't get what you want. Immediately, it's tempting to either give up completely or become desperate and pushy. But there's a third option that most people never consider, the option of strategic patience. This means continuing to work on yourself, continuing to pursue your goals, but not being attached to any specific timeline or outcome. This approach requires tremendous inner strength because it means trusting the process even when you can't see immediate results. But here's what's fascinating about strategic patience. It often accelerates your success because when you're not desperate, you make better decisions, you're more attractive to others, and you're open to opportunities that you might have missed if you were too focused on forcing one particular outcome. Another crucial aspect of using rejection to your advantage is understanding the psychology of pursuit and withdrawal in any interaction. Whether it's romantic, professional, or social, there's a natural dance between pursuing and being pursued. When you're always the one pursuing, always the one initiating, always the one trying harder, you create an imbalanced dynamic that often leads to rejection. But when you learn to withdraw strategically to let others come to you, sometimes you flip the entire script. This doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It means having enough self-respect to step back when your efforts aren't being reciprocated, and enough confidence to believe that the right opportunities will come to you when you're living your best life. The concept of abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset is fundamental to how you experience rejection. When you operate from scarcity, you believe that opportunities are limited, that there's only one right person for you, only one perfect job, only one chance to succeed. This mindset makes every rejection feel catastrophic because you believe you're losing your only shot. But when you cultivate an abundance mindset, you understand that the universe is full of opportunities, that there are many people who could appreciate you, many paths to success, many chances to find happiness. This shift in perspective is revolutionary because it removes the desperation from your interactions. People can sense desperation and it repels them, but they're drawn to those who seem abundant, who seem to have options, who seem confident that things will work out regardless of any single outcome. The role of self-improvement in handling rejection cannot be overstated. Every time someone says no to you, it's an invitation to become better. Not because you weren't good enough before, but because growth is the natural response to feedback. The people who use rejection most effectively are those who immediately ask themselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I improve my approach? What skills do I need to develop? What aspects of my character need? Strengthening this constant commitment to growth means that every rejection literally makes you more attractive, more capable, more resilient than you were before. So even if that specific person or opportunity never comes back, you're better positioned for the next one, and the one after that. Understanding the timing of relationships and opportunities is another crucial element that most people overlook. Sometimes rejection has nothing to do with you personally and everything to do with timing. Maybe that person just got out of a relationship. Maybe that company just made budget cuts. Maybe that investor just lost money on a similar venture. The rejection isn't about your worth, it's about circumstances beyond your control. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes those same circumstances that caused the initial rejection later create the perfect conditions for acceptance. The person who wasn't ready for a relationship 6 months ago might be ready. Now the company that had budget cuts might have just received new funding. The investor who lost money might be looking for a way to recover those losses. This is why maintaining grace and professionalism during rejection is so important, because you never know when the door might open again. The compound effect of handling rejection well extends far beyond any single situation when people see how you respond to disappointment, setbacks, and rejection. They're forming opinions about your character, your resilience, your professionalism, and your emotional maturity. These observations influence whether they'll recommend you for future opportunities, introduce you to their network, or consider you for roles that might be a better fit than the one you were initially rejected for. In essence, every rejection is an audition for future opportunities. The people watching how you handle this disappointment might be the ones who offer you something even better down the road. Let's talk about the energy management aspect of dealing with rejection, because this is where many people sabotage themselves without realizing it. When you're rejected, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, or disappointed, but what you do with those emotions determines whether rejection empowers or defeats you. You can either spend your energy ruminating, replaying the interaction, analyzing what went wrong and building resentment, or you can channel that same energy into productive activities that move you closer to your goals. The choice seems obvious, but it's harder than it sounds, because dwelling on rejection gives you the illusion of control. It feels like you're doing something, when in reality, you're just reinforcing negative patterns. The social proof element of rejection is particularly interesting when you handle rejection with grace, dignity, and continued success. Other people notice, they see that you're not easily broken, that you don't become bitter or desperate, that you maintain your standards and your optimism even in the face of disappointment. This observation makes you more attractive, not less, because people want to associate with winners, with those who can handle adversity, with those who seem unshakable in their core confidence. Paradoxically, the person who handles rejection, well, often ends up with more opportunities than the person who never gets rejected in the first place, because they've demonstrated their resilience publicly. The art of reframing rejection is a skill that transforms your entire experience. Instead of thinking, "I was rejected," think, "I was redirected." Instead of "they don't want me," think, "we're not a good match." Instead of "I failed," think, "I gathered valuable data." These aren't just word games. They're cognitive shifts that change how you feel and how you behave after disappointment. When you reframe rejection as redirection, you stay open to new possibilities. When you see it as a mismatch rather than a judgment, you maintain your self-worth. When you view it as data collection rather than failure, you stay curious and motivated to keep experimenting. Consider the long-term strategy of relationship building through rejection. When someone rejects you initially, but you handle it with such grace and professionalism that they remember you positively, you've actually strengthened your position for future interactions. They've seen your character under pressure and been impressed by it. They know you can handle disappointment without becoming difficult or vindictive. This knowledge makes them more likely to think of you when other opportunities arise, to recommend you to their contacts, or to reconsider their initial decision if circumstances change. Many successful people will tell you that some of their best opportunities came from people who initially rejected them but remembered how well they handled that rejection. The practice of maintaining your standards while being rejected is crucial, because it's tempting to lower your expectations or compromise your values when you're facing repeated no's. But this is exactly when you need to hold firm to what you know you're worth. The people who succeed long-term are those who refuse to settle even when settling, would eliminate the immediate discomfort of rejection. They understand that accepting less than what they deserve might stop the rejection temporarily, but it also stops their growth, their happiness, and their potential for extraordinary success. Finally, understand that mastering the art of turning rejection into advantage is a lifelong practice. Not a skill you learn once and then forget about. Each rejection you face is a new opportunity to practice these principles, to refine your approach, and to deepen your understanding of yourself and others. The goal isn't to never feel hurt by rejection. The goal is to feel the hurt, process it quickly, and then use it as fuel for your continued growth and success. When you can do this consistently, you'll find that rejection loses its power over you, not because you don't care about outcomes, but because you trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way and create success, regardless of any single person's opinion or decision. as we wrap up this journey through the 13 lessons of turning rejection into your advantage. Remember that these principles aren't just theory. They're practical tools that require practice and patience to master. The Stoics understood that building character and resilience is a lifelong process, not a destination you reach and then stop working. Marcus Aurelius himself faced countless rejections and setbacks throughout his life, but he used each one as an opportunity to strengthen his resolve and clarify his values. The same power that helped him become one of history's greatest leaders is available to you right now. Every rejection you face from this moment forward is an opportunity to practice these principles, to build your emotional muscle and to become the kind of person who not only survives rejection but thrives because of it. Start small, practice with minor rejections and disappointments, and gradually work your way up to bigger challenges. Remember that confidence isn't the absence of fear or doubt. It's the ability to act in alignment with your values. Despite those feelings, the person who has never been rejected is either incredibly lucky or incredibly timid. But the person who has been rejected many times and learned from each experience is virtually unstoppable because they've developed immunity to one of the biggest fears that holds most people back, the fear of not being accepted. So go out there and collect some rejections, wear them like badges of honor, because each one is proof that you're taking risks, pursuing your goals, and refusing to settle for a life of mediocrity. And when the right opportunity comes along, when you meet the right people, when the timing is perfect, you'll be ready, because rejection will have taught you exactly what you're worth and exactly what you will and won't accept. And that, my friend, is the ultimate power that rejection can give you. I want to hear your stories of transformation in the comments below. Tell me about a time when rejection led to something even better than what you originally wanted. Share your victories, your challenges, and how you're applying these Stoic principles in your own life. If this video has shifted your perspective on rejection, hit that like button to let me know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell, because we're just getting started on this journey of building unshakable confidence and inner strength together. Remember, every master was once a beginner, every expert was once an amateur, and every success story started with someone who refused to let rejection define their destiny. The only difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to keep going when others quit, to see opportunity where others see obstacles, and to use rejection as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. You now have the tools, the mindset, and the strategy to turn every no into a more powerful yes. So go out there and show the world what you're truly capable of, because your greatest victories are waiting on the other side of your current rejections.